Hi guys, it's Lewis here. I'm in beautiful Ecclesall Woods in Sheffield. I thought I'd best rush out while the weather is quite good to bring you this video. So this video is going to be about something called EMF sensitivity, which is quite close to my heart. Because I suffered with it quite a lot a couple of years back, and I've successfully managed to overcome its very debilitating effects, really. I've got to admit, out of all the symptoms that I used to have, having EMF sensitivity was probably one of the worst ones to have. Basically because it's a 24/7 problem, really. For anyone that doesn't know what EMF sensitivity is, it is basically the sensitivity to electromagnetic frequencies, which is a little bit suspicious or odd and strange for a lot of people because it's not really mainstream, although a lot of people are trying to push it as much as they possibly can to get it out there in mainstream science. So kind of anyone that suffers from electrosensitivity has sensitivities to frequencies like Wi-Fi signals and 3G signals, 4G signals, electrical wiring, harmonics in the body. Nice little dog following me. House wire, telephone cabling, power line cables, etc. So, as you can imagine, you can't really get away from any of this stuff. It's quite difficult to kind of get a control of it, and when it kind of affects you on a 24/7 basis, it's something that really needs to be sorted out quite quickly. So what's kind of good about the experience that I've had is that I do something called hair mineral analysis testing, and we have managed to see some positive trends in people that are suffering from electrosensitivity, which I'll talk about a little bit further on in the video. But for anyone kind of wondering how extreme my sensitivity was, I'll quickly just give you a brief overview about how I kind of figured out that I got electrosensitivity problems, and kind of what I had to do in order to deal with it. I should mention that before I actually realised I was sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies, I had been on a nutritional balancing program that me and Luke now provide for people. So I'd spent a good 2.5 years healing myself at quite a deep level, and getting a lot of the toxins and chemicals out of my body. So that definitely kind of helped. One thing it did do was it made me realise the layers involved in healing, and there's obviously different layers that I had to unwind, and on my journey I kind of healed a layer, and then that would bring up a new symptom or layer to the surface for me to heal. And I guess EMF sensitivity kind of rose to the top. It was the next thing that I had to kind of overcome on my healing journey, on my healing path. So I remember it quite vividly actually. I was in like Laos, and I bought a new MacBook computer, and all of a sudden I started feeling intense kind of feelings that I always actually felt, but the MacBook kind of exacerbated the problem, and it really made me realise that there was something wrong. Luckily for me, I had actually heard about the problem, about EMF sensitivity, so I quickly managed to kind of, you know, work towards dealing with it. The main problem that I found when I first figured out that I had sensitivities to things like computers and Wi-Fi was the confusion or the complexity surrounding it. Dealing with electromagnetic frequencies is quite a complex and specialist area, so I remember in the beginning it was difficult for me to try and figure out, you know, exactly what the frequencies meant and understand all the kind of jargon that was attached to a lot of the information out there on the internet. But yeah, I remember trying to find different hotel rooms to stop in. I found one room when I moved back to Thailand, and my EMF sensitivities got worse. I had burning skin. I should actually talk a little bit about the symptoms. I had burning skin, insomnia, racing heart, like an irritated, itchy feeling that kind of went deep into my cells. My mind was racing. I used to get rashes on my skin, burns on my skin, headaches. If you have a look on EMF kind of symptoms, you'll kind of find, you know, a lot longer list, but they were the main ones for me, basically. And I started getting worse around, you know, 3 or 4 weeks into stopping in this apartment. I kind of walked out onto my balcony that I'd done, you know, tens of times, and I looked up onto the roof of where I was sleeping. I was sleeping on the top floor, and on the top floor was a telephone mast directly, literally above where my bed was situated, and I could not believe it. So I spent the next few days driving around Thailand trying to find a place that had a little bit, you know, I had even no Wi-Fi signals or very little, and I managed to find one, and I ended up stopping there for 6 months. And at night time I would sneak up and turn off the Wi-Fi, and as soon as I turned off the Wi-Fi, the symptoms would disappear, and I was able to kind of sleep properly, which was very nice. So yeah, but obviously stopping in a hotel, Wi-Fi is a big thing for these people, so it was on all the time, and sometimes I wasn't able to cut it off, and I realised that I was stuck on my healing regime. I couldn't move further forward, and I ended up sleeping. I mean, I had extreme symptoms. I couldn't sleep. Even with one Wi-Fi router turned on, I couldn't sleep, and it was terrible. So I ended up sleeping in an aluminium Faraday cage, you know, completely sealed, and that was probably one of the lowest points of my healing. However, from my personal experience, I needed to get my sleeping arrangements sorted out so I could heal further and heal further from the inside, and the Faraday cage managed to give me that, you know, that help or that aid for me to be able to basically move forward and heal. Many months later, a few years later, you know, everything didn't go plain sailing, but to cut a long story short, I am basically now healed of electrosensitivity, which is obviously a big help in my healing, and I honestly take it for granted how bad I used to have it. So in terms of healing from the inside, this is not what a lot of people speak about too much, and in my opinion you can't really live your life trying to get away from electromagnetic frequencies, because if you do, you're gonna have a really hard time doing it, because it's everywhere basically. And luckily for me, I kind of found a health program that I now teach that allowed my body to heal from the inside. So what actually kind of causes, or why do people get electrosensitivity? Now, from my experience, every kind of hair analysis test that I've seen with people who have got electrosensitivity has a few main factors. One of the main ones is adrenal burnout, and when you're in adrenal burnout, people's cortisol levels are not working properly, and people's cells are not very permeable. They become quite hardened, and I found that this is one of the issues with electrosensitivity, is that one of the reasons why people can feel it so much is that their cells tend to be quite hard, and we know that from the fact that people's adrenal glands are low. And there's also a really important pattern that we see on the hair mineral analysis, which is called a calcium shell, and this is basically when someone's calcium is high in the body, and it's a kind of protective measure really. It's like a shell, like an eggshell, and this hardens the cells and calcifies the cells, and it's really difficult for the electromagnetic frequencies to permeate the cells. So what you get is these EMF symptoms. Another really important thing that we see are people very heavily intoxicated with metals, especially things like aluminium and copper, mercury, cadmium. And what we've found is that these metals tend to act like amplifiers in the body, and from my experience with releasing these metals, I'm very well versed in releasing them. I've been through many experiences where the metals have been coming out of my body, and every time the metals are coming out, I would re-experience the EMF symptoms temporarily, and after the metals are being released, it would then decrease, and I would get an improvement in my EMF sensitivities. Another important factor that we see in people who've got EMF sensitivity is that their potassium to sodium ratio is usually massively out of balance. And for anyone who knows a little bit about biochemistry and the electrical system of the body, will realise that the sodium to potassium ratio in the cells is related to the electrical current, or the electrical charge between the cells in the body. And when this electrical system is out of balance, it causes some other EMF sensitivities. So we usually find people are in something called sympathetic dominance, which is an overuse of the fight or flight, and when someone's in sympathetic dominance, their potassium is very low, and we tend to find that the EMF symptoms increase. A lot of it is based on the potassium ratio, sodium to potassium ratio, and the level of the potassium on the hair mineral analysis test. So by healing my adrenals and balancing my minerals, and basically making my cells more permeable, making my cortisol higher or increased in the body, and working on my sodium to potassium ratio and getting myself out of fight or flight, I've managed to overcome the effects of EMF sensitivity. And although I'll never say to anyone, you know, now you can be surrounded by EMFs, it's still causing harm. I don't worry about it all the time. I'm not always on edge. I'm not always walking on eggshells. So it's really interesting, and we'd obviously love to do a lot more research into this and get some more people involved. I'm really kind of grateful for the fact that I've had it at quite a severe level and I've overcome its effects. For anyone kind of wanting a little bit of advice on how to help, or you know, how you can get over it quicker, is, you know, if you're struggling a lot at the moment, one good symptomatic thing to do is to take a shower. The shower dissipates the electrical charge in the body, and it grounds you to the floor. You put some salt on the body, or some Epsom salts, and that manages to dissipate the electricity a lot more. I would 100% recommend get a bed canopy, sort out your sleeping areas, but make sure that the bed canopies are quite strong. I made the bad mistake of picking up any old bed canopy and later realised that the jargon of the 99% effectiveness and the decibels, etc., it turned out that it was absolutely useless in stopping the EMF frequencies. So I would definitely recommend trying to get a bed canopy that's kind of above 35 decibels. Also ensure that if you're living on a second floor flat or higher, that you've got a ground mat at the bottom of the bed, which will ensure that you've got a full Faraday cage around the bed. And also try and get a bed canopy that also tackles with the low EMF frequencies as well, which you tend to find from electrical appliances around the house and telephone cables and power lines. These are actually a hidden issue for a lot of people with EMF sensitivity, and yeah, I remember it was an issue for me. I kind of just thought I was affected by things like Wi-Fi and 3G and 4G signals, but I found out the hard way that I was actually affected by low frequencies as well. So it was really important for me to not only create a Faraday effect around my bed to dissipate the Wi-Fi and the radio frequency signals, but it was also really important for me to ground the bed, ground the Faraday cage with the right materials in order for me to dissipate the low electrical frequencies that you know, was in my environment as well. If you would like to get a good quality bed canopy, I still have a few left. I'm not actually going to be buying any back in because I do really want to concentrate more on helping people heal more from the inside, but give me a shout and I've got some good quality ones still available. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it really. In terms of healing from the inside, I will say that it takes quite a bit of commitment, and you know, it's you need to make sure that you're on the right track. One good thing about what me and Luke do when nutritional balancing is that we have a scientific test that we can kind of see the minerals, see the toxic metals, see the adrenal output, see different trends, and we have a full balancing program that is able to basically heal people, not just the EMF that we, me for example, I had a lot of health problems. I had chronic fatigue, skin issues, anxiety, depression, sometimes suicidal thoughts, brain fog, derealization, detachment, depersonalization, overthinking, living in a dream world, eczema, acne, you name it, I probably used to have it. So yeah, we do want to do some more research into it. We have got some very promising tools that can help people overcome EMF sensitivity better. Things like kelp wraps seem to be working extremely well for people. I remember taking kelp was a massive thing for me, but in order to truly heal, in order for me to truly get over it, I really needed the full kind of whole-bodied, whole-faceted approach that nutritional balancing offers. So I'll leave it there for now. I hope this can get out to a lot of people struggling with EMF sensitivity. I think the main aim that I wanted to kind of portray in this video is that, yes, do as much as you possibly can to get away from the electromagnetic frequencies, but you can heal from the inside. Quickly, just before I leave, I'll just mention that anyone that's using a computer, anyone that's using a phone, try and minimize the use. I was a web designer, so obviously it was a big issue for me working on a computer. I actually hooked up my computer to a LED projector, and I basically projected my whole screen onto a wall and built a small Faraday cage for my laptop. So I had a laptop with a Faraday cage, and I had the wires coming out to the projector, and that was also a massive help for me as well, because being on a computer for 8-10 hours a day was a big problem for me. So yeah, anyone that would like to start a nutritional balancing program, or get a little bit more information about it, then mine and Luke's email is in the comments box below. And yeah, thanks for watching. It's a beautiful day today, so try and get yourself out in nature, ground yourself. It's a great way of overcoming not only EMF symptoms, but overcoming a lot of health problems in general. Nature has a lot of the answers, believe it or not. See you later, guys.